You could start saying it's magnificent.
I'm going to start saying it's
Magnificent. I created a monster.
There it is.
I
Yep, I
violently
like it.
disagree with this decision.
Nope, it's a thing now. It's totally
Wonderful.
a thing.
I'm glad I was here for the birth of that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Literary Lushes with your hosts, Megan
and Samantha.
And today we are doing the book The Last Human by Zack Jordan. And we are lucky enough to actually have him on the show with us. So hello, Zack.
Hey, what's up?
So for today's drink, in The Last Human, our main character, she only gets one drink except for water in the whole novel. And it's hot and smells delicious. So based on that, we decided to go with, I guess you could call it a traditional grog. And it's hot and has some spiced rum and cinnamon. And it's just all around delicious.
Yes.
It's a good drink for the end of the world.
It is.
I mean, not just this, but you know what? I don't know what I'm going to say that would ruin the book, though. So maybe I should take that out.
It's not really a spoiler, though.
Yeah, no.
You know, there are infinite worlds that could be ending at any time.
That's true.
This is very true.
It kind of feels like the world's ending right now as well.
That it does.
So,
yep.
All right, fine.
and it could, someone's world could be ending, not necessarily the entire universe.
Oh, that's true. And you probably want to be drunk for that, right?
Yes, absolutely. If I'm sober, I'm not going to be happy.
So get your grog and call it a day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Zack, this book, I know it was published this year, right? I pre-ordered it on Amazon. I was like, oh, thank the Amazon gods for the 2-day shipping. So excited.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I was really excited to read it. I love a good strong female character. I don't know if you listened to any of our episodes before you agreed to come on, but basically anytime it's a strong female lead, I'm like, I love it. There's a strong female lead. Yeah. And here we got 3 of those.
At least there are a lot of ungendered people too, that people my readers have told me they disagree violently sometimes on how they picture them.
Really?
Yeah.
Violently disagreed. I like that term. I'm going to start using that.
Well, I have 4 beta readers, and it's 2 married couples. So now I have caused fights in both families based on the genders of my characters.
Really? Like any character in particular?
Well, there's big disagreement on 11, the intelligent spacesuit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I thought of it as a boy.
You think a male-ish, a masculine character?
Yeah. See, I thought more feminine at times, but
fight.
Yeah. I'm getting my katana out and we're gonna fight.
Yeah, so there's that. There's another character too that I don't want to spoil anything, but that there's great disagreement on later in the book as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's majority feminine characters.
It's awesome.
And I love it. Right. I love it. And they're the female characters that, you know, are female, they don't seem like the female characters that were written by a male that you sometimes see in books. You know what I mean?
You mean she breasted boobily down the stairs?
Exactly.
Yes. Or who's running in a horror story and turning around and looking behind them every 3 seconds and then trips over a branch while running in high heels.
Boobs first. Yeah.
No problem. I guess. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but thank you for noticing.
Yeah. And I may butcher the pronunciation. Is it Saria and Shania or Shenya? Shenya. Okay.
All the widow names have that "ya" on the end.
Okay.
I loved the whole widow culture. Like from chapter 1, I was like, holy fuck, she's a black widow. This is awesome.
Did you see the comic?
No.
I've got a webcomic going that is the, a widow trying to raise a human child.
Oh.
Pretty adorable, if I do say so myself.
I
Well,
did see
now I
some
wanna-
of the concept art on your website,
Yeah,
and
that's really
it is a
cool.
little bit more horrifying
Yeah, right.
than I imagined.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the artist who did concept art for like It and movies like that. So he sort of took it in a different direction than the heartwarming tale that I was picturing more of a Neil Gaiman-ish horror.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to have to look that up when we're done.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know what
Get
I'm
on my
going to
Instagram.
read.
It's US Kilbotic is my Instagram, and they're all on there.
Cool. What inspired you to do the Black Widow? Was it like just an epiphany? You woke up in the middle of the night. It was like, this is it.
No, she went through a bunch of different things. In the very first, this came from a short story. Well, it came from a lot of them, but there was a scene between. It's a father and a child in the original one, and the child says that somebody called her a human at school, and the father wants this kid's name. And the original idea was that he was sort of a godfather on a space station. And then I did a totally genderless one that was more of a android-ish thing, but it was kind of squid-like. It just came out of any room that it wanted to, like out of the ceiling or out of the walls and stuff like that. And then eventually
that
I
sounds
moved on
creepy.
to Shenya the Widow, which was this terrifying... I picture her as like a black mantis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's got... I try not to describe her too well because I want readers to see her as a person, not as a terrifying killing machine.
Right.
But yeah, I picture her as just a large, not as big as the concept art, probably more like the comic actually pictures it pretty well, I think.
Okay. Very cool.
I'm gonna have to definitely check that out.
Yeah, like 100 pounds of death, shrieking death. Who's trying to raise this kid?
I know. I did laugh in like the first chapter when she's trying to comfort, and she's like trying not to like accidentally slice any like appendages off.
Yeah.
And then when Sarya's like, I need to go home, but she's sleeping, and this is basically the number one rule that you never,
Don't
ever,
wake
ever
her
do.
You do not wake them up.
Well, all of those things are just like normal parenthood turned up to 11, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy when you're wrestling. I've got 2 girls, and when I'm throwing them around, it's really easy to hurt someone who's 5 years old, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it is really annoying when they come wake you up for no reason. Because their sock is on backwards or something.
Did you give them a copy of the book and be like, here, read this? There's so many lessons that Daddy wants you to learn.
Well, my older one is 8, and she has stolen it on multiple occasions to read it, but I don't know if she's quite ready for some of the scenes in there.
Right.
Yeah, you do go through like an emotional roller coaster at some points, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard to... I'm always very open with the girls. I answer every question as honestly as I can instead of lying about where babies come from. But, they haven't seen the dark side of the world at all yet, and so I don't want to be the one who introduces them to that.
Right.
Right,
Keep
yeah.
them as innocent and long as possible without having to deal with all the crap we all have to deal with eventually of the nasty world.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, so I will... the first book is dedicated to the oldest girl, and she will be reading it any time now, but I will have to, supervise it, Talk about it every chapter.
So does that mean that there's going to be a second book?
Well, I've got 2 girls, so I have to.
There you go. No pressure, Zach. No pressure.
But also, in some countries, I do have, I'm signed up for a 2-book series, so.
Oh,
yes.
cool.
We do have international listeners.
Oh, good. Well,
yeah.
Depending where they are, they'll be able to find it sooner, maybe.
So does that include the U.S. or no?
Not yet. No.
Get your shit together, America.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, get your shit together, Zach. I was like, damn,
No.
damn.
It's beyond his control, okay?
Yeah,
That's why I was like,
you're not feeling hard enough.
I mean, the ending is definitely there that you can extrapolate without totally blowing the ending for people who haven't read it yet into another story. So I would gladly read the sequel.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. Well, not just thinking, obviously writing as well. The problem is just limiting. There's so many things that are going on and can go on. There are a billion stories you can tell, and my editor doesn't let me tell a billion stories. So I have to figure out which one is the best, I think. Like before this book came out 3 years ago, 4 years ago, this was not about what it is now. So I had to find that story. I've got to do it again, and that is really I don't know, it's like emotionally traumatizing to do that.
Yeah, it's like, bye. I made up this awesome storyline and now I have to let it go. And
Right. Like every other weekend. It's painful.
Well, while you were saying that, all I pictured was that scene in the visitors center where Saria is, she sees the network lines and she's trying to find the strongest one. So that's kind of what I was visualizing when you're like, oh, I have to find like the storyline that I want to go with. So thank you for creating an analogy for me to see it visually in my mind.
Yeah, that's perfect.
way to make that connection there, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here all day. So I have to ask, so Sandy and Mare, and again, the concept art on your web page, we know Mare is a horrifying creature from the descriptions in the book and how people react to him when he's angry. But oh man, and he looks so different than Sandy, but they are of a related species, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I figured that sexual polymorphism is a thing in our species, and it's really a thing in some other Earth species. So I figured maybe other alien species just take that to a huge new level. Like males are different than females, and maybe there's 3 genders or 6 genders, and they're all totally different. And some, I mean, think about like anglerfish on Earth, where the males are like an inch long, and they eventually turn into an organ of the females. So I figured it wasn't that far out to make aliens look different.
Definitely not. And I think in your acknowledgments, you said one of your daughters said that they have to have multiple eyes.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's been such a long process. I don't know. I would tell them about what I was writing about, and then I would see them making these cartoons and comics and stuff, and all their aliens would have a ton of eyes. So I don't know if I saw that and took it from them, or if it came from an earlier story that I told them, or what.
So we don't know who came up with the idea.
I did like also in the book how it kind of poked fun at the humans as a whole, especially like the network papers that you would see in between chapters and like the Firebringer myth and all of that. I got a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah. Sci-fi is just so human-centric. Not in just... Obviously, it's going to be about the people who wrote it, but also... It's just, we are always the plucky upstarts that are going to come through at the end, like Independence Day. Like, it doesn't matter what odds we face. We're going to do something unpredictable, and Jeff Goldblum is going to save us all. And actually, usually, I guess it's Will Smith most of the time. But
I mean, Jeff Goldblum was evil in Thor Ragnarok, so...
Oh, who's so epic in that? Whatever. He's so awesome. Did you watch his Netflix show?
No, but it's on my list.
Netflix or Hulu, he does it. I don't know, one of those, but it's great. It's just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum. I swear they just put him in movies now and just say, do whatever you want. Yeah. And then they just go with it.
Ragnarok is one of my favorite movies anyway. Just like, sci-fi movies. I thought
that's great.
A better Star Wars movie than most Star Wars movies.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. It's a great movie. So good.
You said Jeff Goldblum. I went off on a tangent again. I'm sorry. I do that.
Oh, that's all right.
This is why we have Samantha to keep me in line, because I tend to be like, oh, tangent. Here we go.
That's why we edit the episode, Zach.
I get it. Well, the reason I brought up Jeff Goldblum was because I always picture, like every sci-fi movie and book tends to end with the humans. First of all, we were the good guys the whole time. And secondly, we won at the end. So I thought the only book I can think of actually that starts the way mine does, or it's the lore starts the way, would be Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where
great book
destroyed in the first chapter and we don't look back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get rid of that trope right off and make us the Empire instead of the good guys.
Yeah, it was refreshing to see that when you kind of find out that, oh, she's the last human because we did some not so good things. And you kind of hint at it throughout the book too, right? Where it's like she has to keep her identity a secret because goddess knows what would happen.
Right.
if they found out that she was human. So I'm like, okay, something's up. And then you find out and you're like, oh, we were buttholes. What else is new?
Right.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that big of a stretch to me. Like normally we focus on the good stuff, but there are some pretty bad things in humanity.
Like hoarding toilet paper,
for example.
But it also the way that humanity is we ended up being a dick in the end. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Dennis's Taylors, and I think he's actually who recommended this book, right, Samantha?
Yes.
And
he was like, if you guys haven't heard of The Last Human, you need to check it out and put it on your list ASAP. I'm paraphrasing, but that is essentially what he said. And we're like, well, we love the Bobiverse series and we trust your judgment. And you've been on our show twice now. So how could we possibly say no? And then we both love the book.
I haven't talked to him yet, but I have heard that. And I think that's really awesome. Because I read the Bobiverse series like 5 years ago, maybe. And to have his quote on my book 5 years later is pretty amazing. The quote process, or the blurb process, I guess they call it, was probably the most awe-inspiring process of my life, because both my agent and my editor, that's their job, is to get these blurbs, and they come back with one after another, and they would just be jaw-dropping. Like, you got who to read my book and to say a thing publicly about it? So, yeah, I mean, it has... it changed my reading list, changed my listing list, because now I feel like this loyalty to all these people now.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it works. And then they get to broaden their horizons and you get to broaden your horizons at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the day, someday down the line, when they ask me, hey, we've got this new author coming out. Will you read their book and tell me, give me a quote? I can't wait.
Aww. I'm saying awe like it's a child thing, but it's not.
Well,
I'm saying awe in the sense of like, I could only imagine like when I design something and it ends up on like shirts, I'm always like, that's my design. Yeah. That's on someone's shirt. Aw, like, like it's, I don't even know the right word, just humbling. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. In fact, so I have this plan. I can't do it right now because, the world is ending. But when the world... past the world ending, when conventions start up and stuff like that again, I have this stack of books, and I've been writing these letters to the actual authors who inspired me, and I want to get in their signing lines. And when I get to the front, give them my book with a letter in the front and say, hey, I wrote this book because I read your book. Thank you.
Oh, I like awesome. That.
Well, I owe it.
I like that a lot. I'd probably cry if it was me.
Well, I was picturing me in 10 years and somebody comes up, holding The Last Human. I'll be like, oh, yeah, it's my first novel. And then I open it up and there's this letter. They wrote their first novel because of it. And then, yes, I would weep uncontrollably.
Humans and our pesky liquids coming out of all the different orifices.
This would be a happy cry.
Right.
Not the other kind.
Yeah, there are a lot of different ones.
When you do that, Zach, can you let us know so I can come to the convention and just be a creep and watch?
See us all cry. It could be a lot of these authors have put out so many things. It may not be as magical anymore. I don't know. Like at my very first signing ever, I sat next to Terry Brooks, who has like 35 New York Times bestsellers about elves. And I had not read it at that point. But people would come up, and every person would have a different novel for him to sign. And he was really nice about it, but I couldn't help but wonder, what is going through his head when he signs each one of those? Does he remember what he didn't like about that one? Or does he think, oh man, I haven't seen this one for a year? Or what?
Or, oh, you picked that one? Really?
Right. So for me, it's all magical and just fairyland. But maybe for him, after 30 years, it's just, that's his thing. He just doesn't.
Well, we'll have to check back to you in 30 years to see how you feel about it, assuming the world doesn't end.
Let me set a timer.
Yeah. I'll put it in my Outlook calendar. Yeah.
Thanks. Follow up.
You can tell we live by our calendars.
It's a crazy, crazy world we live in. It is like, it's as equally horrifying as it is. It's also like very cool and fascinating to be alive during this precise moment in time.
Yeah, I saw this, I'm sure it was on Reddit or something, someone mentioning, how you can tell the difference in, like if a movie was in the 70s because everybody's smoking in the hospital. But this will be like movies after this point. Will people shake hands, or will we be able to tell when that movie came out because everybody's shaking hands?
Ah. So, Zach, another thing we do in all of our episodes is we like to talk about, because, when you're reading, you draw a picture in your head. And like you were saying, you didn't want to give too many details to some of the characters so that the readers could kind of picture. So what we like to do is Megan and I like to share with each other who we pictured would be cast if this were ever made into a motion picture or TV show.
Okay.
So because you wrote the book, do you have like anybody in mind? It could be living, dead, an amalgamation of people. I mean, obviously, I know, some of them are non-human forms. So even like voiceover actors, did you have anybody in mind for any of the characters?
Man. So I did have to think about this at some point because this was 3 years ago, and the book was a different title, and this was one question in an interview. And now everybody has sort of aged since then, because I was picturing Trudy Chacon. Do you remember
That name
her?
sounds so familiar.
She's the helicopter pilot from Avatar, first of all.
Oh, I love her. Sorry, that was real high.
She's awesome.
Real high.
And she's also... she was in some weird ones like Battle Los Angeles and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Now I think she's actually 40. So I don't think that's going to work anymore. I don't think it would have worked back then. I just didn't know. I was ignorant. But I was picturing...
Hey, whatever. It's your mind. Whatever works.
Yeah, I know, but still. And then probably John Goodman from Mer.
Oh.
Except I don't know if he can get angry enough. But I did see him, I remember in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, when he was a crazed Bible salesman. And
he also gets pretty angry in The Big Lebowski.
And Speed Racer.
In Speed Racer. He's so good in Speed Racer. All right. So this is what I can tell you.
Oh my God. I didn't know anybody else other than my husband has seen that movie. He's the one who made me show it. And he references that movie at least twice a day.
I unironically love that movie. I do. It's amazing. It's like, I love when people, even if people do a bad thing, but they do it with their whole heart. I love it. And it comes across in that movie.
It's one of those guilty, loving pleasures. Like, it's not the best movie in the world, but it's so corny and cheesy that it makes it the best.
And it's wholehearted. Like, they don't do anything halfway in that entire movie, and I just love it.
No. So when John Goodman yells "Spritle" and then he gets angry and then he starts fighting everybody, I think he could pull off.
And I guess he does fight the ninjas, and then he drops that line about more like nanjas. Terrible.
Have you seen it yet, Sam?
I think I saw it once, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it because clearly none of this is ringing a bell for me.
Good.
Oh, it's
great. Generations Citizen Kane, easily.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case.
Anyways, I did the tangent thing again. Sorry.
Right.
There we go.
Now we're talking about the best movie of all time, so it's cool.
And you were proving the point that John Goodman could get angry enough to play Mer.
Yeah, I think he'd be good.
Yep.
That would be good.
I'm not sure about Roche, the android. I actually pictured him as very uptight with big words, but totally amoral. But when I heard the audiobook, it was more of a Lando Calrissian. So I don't know now.
Huh.
I'm confused because I love other people's interpretations of my stuff. Like, I will never say, no, that's wrong. But now, yeah, my own headcanon is kind of screwed up now.
Well, that just can't be, Zach. We need to remedy that.
Well, I don't think I produced the Bible. I mean, as in like a central authority. I think I produced a starting point, or at least I hope.
And then you let fans.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of headcanons. That's all great with me. Make up whatever you want.
And I do have to say, sometimes when a book goes into excruciating detail about every character, I'm like, well, okay, there's nothing left for interpretation. Yeah, I have a clear picture in my head, but that's not what I thought 2 chapters ago before you told me, every centimeter of her body,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's always that terrible scene where they look in a mirror in chapter 1. And they look at their youthful glow or their green eyes or a shock of hair falling over something. I just
their skin glistening in the sun.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess I do. I put a scene in that is supposed to be making fun of that, which is in my first chapter when an alien is describing a human. But
which was very funny.
Thank you, because I thought it is it's useful, but it's also annoying. It's like the same thing as last week on this show. Like it's really annoying, but at the same time, it's useful. So I was trying to get around that again, break a trope by doing the same thing but doing it in a new way.
Gotcha. And it played out well.
I actually had to reread that because I was like reading it and I'm like, that's funny. And then I was like, my brain caught up and I was like, oh, wait, he's describing a human. And then I went back and I reread it and I was like, okay, this is really funny.
We are horrifying.
Yeah. Especially compared to a giant black widow spider who has her skeleton on the outside.
Right, where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I tried to drop in other stuff. I mean, there's that widow fairy tale at some point too, which sort of just drops as granted all these other horrifying things, except they're not. I mean, if you're a widow, then of course children have to fight their way out of a nest. And, it's kind of weird that you don't. I mean, how do you give birth? You do what? From your what? That should be really
You don't have to battle your siblings and purchase your life? What?
Right. Yeah. So you're just a bunch of wusses is what I'm hearing. I mean, any alien culture, we don't really do it very well, I don't think, I don't want to criticize a ton of other literature, but I think because we're humans, we see everybody through a very human lens. And so, like, our version of an alien is a human with a different forehead. That's it.
And maybe colored green or blue.
Right.
Or have different kind of ears.
Maybe they're angrier more than us or less than us. That's our extent. So yeah, just trying to see us from the actual outside is it's a really difficult exercise, but it's fun. I mean, it's almost hilarious when you start looking at what we call different. Like when we might look down on a previous society because their villages are only 100 people. I mean, a big city. Now Chicago's a big city. That's 3 million. Well, I mean, even on Earth, we have cities with 30 million. And then 1,000 years from now, we're gonna look at the stories written about Tokyo and think, oh, how quaint. They had less than 1 billion people in that city. And it's just, it'll never stop. There will always be somebody higher than us that will be able to look down and say, that's cute. And we can't see it because we're humans. We can criticize in our own species, but then we think, each one of us thinks we have this standard. Oh, I know what big is. I know what smart is. But that's just because we haven't experienced anything bigger than, our experience.
And that's like a common thread in the book. And it did make my brain hurt at some point, Zach. So thank you for that. When it was like, oh, your tiny, feeble human mind can't possibly comprehend the network. And you're only like a tier 2.
Yeah. But it's true, though. I mean,
it is true.
The numbers I was throwing around, I did real mind-breaking math to figure that stuff out. And it's incredible how big the universe is.
Oh, I admit I can't fathom it. Like I think I can, but then when I really have to think about it, like when I'm reading those parts of your book where you try to illustrate how big the universe actually is, and my brain's just like, nope, does not compute.
Yeah, it's natural. I don't think you can. It's like trying to picture a 4-dimensional hypercube. Like it doesn't work. It's a thing. It's in math. I've seen it on a page, but my brain just can't fit around it.
Yeah, we're limited with our little human minds at tier 2 or whatever we would be.
Right. Somewhere around there.
I think it was tier 2.
Yeah.
It's above moron, apparently.
I know, I did get a good chuckle about that. And how everybody was like, would talk down to you even if you were just a 1.8 instead of a 2, and how people talk down to Saria so much just because of that little difference.
Yeah, but that's how the society works, and it has for, I don't know, 500 million years. So I mean, you could try to change it. She did.
Yeah, she sure did. Was there a reason why the collective hive minds were like the tier 4s? Was that just something because more bodies, more experience, or was there like a more hidden meaning to that?
You mean why they were normally collectives?
Yeah, like why the collective minds typically were like the higher tiers as opposed to, Sandy, she's a tier 3.
Yeah.
But all the tier 4s you see like the librarian, the observer.
Right.
Um
I just figured that there's only so much brain you can fit in a skull, first of all. And then, like, even on Earth, I don't have a lot to compare it to because our technology is, just starting. But
mhm.
when we get faster, we get in parallel. So, like, in my phone, it's got a graphics card that has hundreds or thousands of cores working in parallel. So years ago, we stopped trying to make one thing go faster and started making a billion things work together instead. So I kind of figured
Right.
in biology, you see the same thing. A bunch of cells, one cell didn't get smart. A bunch of cells got together and turned into an organism. And same thing in our brain. One brain cell is not smart, but 100 billion of them are. So I figured it would probably go the same way as that. Like you would just stop seeing these singleton intelligences and you would start seeing these group intelligences instead.
And now suddenly the statement in the book about how a species is a person makes so much more sense.
Yeah, right. Because it's like a fractal thing where at every level it's similar. So our brain has a bunch of things, the galaxy has a bunch of things, the species has a bunch of things, and together those all start working. You see patterns emerge, and we have a name for that. We just call it intelligence.
Well, I feel smarter for listening to that, so thank you.
Yes, I do.
I think, though, it's funny reading I won't say it's funny. It's actually heartbreaking to read some of my reviews where people are like, I wanted an adventure story, and then it goes off the rails.
But
and
not going into a philosophical, good grief.
Philosophical?
Yes. You can always count on me to mispronounce things. That's for sure.
It's part of your charm.
But anyways, they were saying about how they weren't expecting to do that.
Right.
And I was like, well.
And so
that's what sci-fi is.
There are a million adventure stories out there. I mean, if you don't want to think, then you can read Guardians of the Galaxy. But I at least wanted to try something new because all my heroes tried something new. So I figured I didn't want to just copy. I wanted to be the Arthur C. Clarke of 2020, instead of... He didn't just write more H.G. Wells. He made up new stuff. So, I mean, it is a first book. And so all my experiments are just experiments. Like, I don't have data. I don't know how it worked yet. I don't know how people are reading it yet. I think in the future, I will do things differently. But I will definitely still try to make people think. Like, just because some people wanted an adventure doesn't make me want to just write adventure stories from now on.
But it was an adventure, but an adventure that would make you think along the way about how tiny you are in the whole spectrum of things.
That was the hope.
And it's good to expand your horizons and think a little bit more. I think that's what, there are some books that I'll pick up to read that I know the author and I know that it's just going to be an easy read and just to like wipe my brain. But for the most part, when I read, I want to either learn something or expand my mind or get my mind thinking like, oh, hey, that's something different. And I want it and those books are the ones that leave lasting impressions on me.
You're the people I'm looking for then.
We're always available, Zach, so you just let us know.
I'll send you the next one.
There you go.
Ooh.
I know. I thought it was a great book. Like I said, I thought there was adventure. I liked the fact that it made you think. Again, I like strong female leads. I liked the fact that gender was also a factor in it, like we talked about earlier with 11 and the network. And even the observer, she references the observer as him, but the observer references, I guess, himself as me. So you never truly know what the gender of the observer is. But for some reason, I pictured the observer as miniature little Albert Einsteins. I think it was the white hair that did me in.
Well, maybe. That's your opinion. I'm not going to step in,
Yeah, it's just tiny. And then it was kind of just funny to picture, tiny little Albert Einsteins just climbing on top of each other. So I went with it.
Yeah, but manic.
And now I can't unsee
You're
that.
welcome.
Someone told me Oompa Loompas, and I draw the line before that.
What about Albert Einstein Oompa Loompas?
Yeah, well, if they're not from the original horrifying Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, then sure. I picture actually Well, you know what? I'm not going to say a word because I just realized I was about to stumble into a possible plot point in the next book. So never mind.
Ugh, darn. Okay. And Megan and I were talking before we started recording, Zach. There was also another theme in the book was freedom and the concept of free will.
Yeah.
So we liked how that was a theme throughout the book, and it was really addressed, towards the end.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I didn't try to put like a total answer of this is what I think because I don't know how it works. But I did want to at least explore the possibility that you don't know how it works either. Because I think, like you as the reader,
right?
Because I think most people are probably like me. They have thought about it a couple times and then thought, well, you know what? I still have to choose what to have for breakfast today. But it's such a you're right. It's a big question. It's up there with
and especially when you when it's paired with the fact that there are these higher intelligences who are basically planning out your whole life since before you're even born. Then you're like, well.
Right.
Is any of this actually free will?
Right. Which is another thing that some reviewers hate, actually.
I like, because then you start thinking about like, well, so if I decide not to do anything now, is that part of their plan? Was their plan for me to figure this all out? And then that I decide not to do anything anymore. And then therefore it's not my choice anymore.
Like you didn't know that I knew that you knew that I knew. And then it goes on forever. And then
the double heist and the triple heist. Right. Yeah. Like that Rick and Morty episode.
Yes, I'm picturing that, but I didn't want to name drop Rick and Morty. That's exactly right.
Oh my gosh. This is great.
Have you seen the Galactic Registry online?
No.
Because, I mean, the book talks about
as we quietly Google.
galacticregistry.network. Actually, let me just wait till you see it first so you can just know what I'm talking about. So this is actually a mobile site, so you can still see it on your computer, but...
Oh, some of these names are great.
Well, these are all created by people. So each one is actually, if you click on one, you can see all about that species. So each one is created by a different person, actually. There's about 800 in here. And it's just a database. It's like the living lore of the last human. So all the species from the actual book are in here, but, that's only 7 or something like that. So everything else is sort of an interactive future Wikipedia. I'm sort of expanding this into a game. So maybe I should start over now that you asked me if I wanted to share anything. So now I realize nobody's actually seeing this. So here I go. So yeah, I'm working on the Galactic Registry. I actually made it online. There's an interactive version where you can add your own species and planet and leader. And there's a bunch of other cool stuff that's sort of coming out in pieces. So sort of a mini game that hooks into this called Escape from the Solar System, which is we're going to see how fast your species can make first contact. And there's a bunch of other stuff like that too. The point is, though, to bring the fans into the universe so that anything they say, if they make up a species, that is now canon. It's not something I came up with, but it doesn't matter. It is now in the official lore of The Last Human.
Oh, I like this. This Registry, is very cool.
galacticregistry.network is where that is.
Man, some of these are so great. I'm like, sorry, I'm like skimming through some of them, and some of them are more like, tongue in cheek, kind of funny.
Well, do you see down in the bottom right, it says scan me?
Yeah.
With the appendage of your choice. Oh boy.
Yeah. And then you can regenerate any part of it if you don't like what you got.
Oh boy. All right. So I am Earl Stonycamb the Generous. My species is the Darkness of Terror.
Whoa.
My homeworld is Geekiku.
If you click on that.
My fun fact. Oh, this is embarrassing. The Darkness of Terror spend a large percentage of their life engaged in an embarrassing bodily function. I am.
So if you like that, you can claim that species, and then you can add it to the actual to the lore.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Mine's pretty neat.
Who are you?
I got Senior Director. Okay, I cannot pronounce this. Jekbefor. Jekabefor.
Hey, it's your name. Roll with it. You tell us.
My species is the Plentiful Serenity.
Soothing.
I know. And my fun fact is the plentiful serenity ingests their body weight in mercury every year.
Oh, interesting.
And my planet is mostly seas with odd islands here and there, which is funny because I'm a water sign.
Now you know, it's official.
There we go. That's so cool.
So now the next step would be, like, I have a bunch of other systems. I come from a programming background, so this is sort of how I used to create art before I started writing. But now I have, like, there's a big inventory system under it. So when people tweet from this, like, talk about the species, I gift them giant starships and stuff like that because I can. It's really fun. So it's not everything that happens right now. It's supposed to be sort of an interactive fiction. So if you join the network or you change your name or you do something in there, it'll make like a 3-sentence fiction about it and tweet it out.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it's sort of an experiment in storytelling, but we'll see where it goes over the next couple months.
And that is galacticregistry.network.
Correct. galacticregistry.network. And then on Instagram, US Killbotics, which is where the comic is coming out.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Zack. We really, really, really appreciate you agreeing to come on our show. We adored the novel. We can't wait for the sequel.
Thank you for the interview. I really appreciate it.
So we want to thank Zack again for agreeing to join us. It was amazing talking to him about his book, The Last Human. We highly, highly recommend it, and definitely check out his Galaxy Registry website to see what species you would be.
Yes, it's Megan-tastic.
Oh my God, this is going to be a thing, isn't it?
I'm designing a shirt this weekend. It's Megan-tastic.
So for our Concha's Corner, Megan has a calendar that talks about lesser known national holidays. And we thought it would just be fun to share some with you.
Yes. The month of May, it's Photography Month, Salad Day. Salad Month.
Salad Month. I can get on board with that.
Yep. Salsa Month.
Ooh.
Hamburger Month.
Ugh.
Which, ironically, it's National Hamburger Day when this airs. Military Appreciation Month.
Okay, I can on board with that.
Motorcycle Awareness Month.
Okay.
Dental Care Awareness Month. Egg Month. Oh, Get Caught Reading Month. Today is National Brisket Day and National Hamburger Day.
Gross and gross.
Friday the 29th is Paperclip Day and Heat Awareness Day.
And if there are any random national days in your country or wherever you're located, or if there's just something that you celebrate, let us know.
Yeah. Oh, June 8th is Best Friends Day. But along with Best Friend Day is Name Your Poison Day and Upsy Daisy Day.
So, oh my God. So you name your best friend, you have a drink, and then you fall over and go, oopsie daisy.
Oh my God. Keep doing that. I need to mark that day.
And if you guys want to support us on Patreon, you can find us by searching for Literary Lushes. We have a variety of membership levels for you, anywhere from $2 all the way up to $20. No matter where you level you can support us at, you get a lot of cool stuff. You get written drink recipes, access to uncut episodes, including interviews with all of our authors and guests, and
unboxing videos.
Yeah, we have patron-only exclusive videos. So we have unboxing videos. So when Angela Roquette sends us really, really cool stuff, we do unboxing videos. We have a gift exchange video from the holidays. We're going to be doing another gift exchange video for our birthdays. Once quarantine is over, we have a lot of other silly videos planned. And yeah, and you also get some free Literary Lushes swag too, like bookmarks, pins, a magnetic bottle opener. On the higher tiers, you get a tumbler glass and a T-shirt. So we love and appreciate all of our patrons, and we thank you. And if you're interested in joining, you could find us. You can also find us on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So please reach out. Please also rate us. Hashtag
Don't hate us.
Don't hate us. Helps us let us know how we're doing, but also spread the word. We do have international listeners, and we would love to keep it that way.
Yes. Like we like to say, stay lively with your libations.